Chair's birthday? Chair's birthday? What? When Yao Xiazi saw the words Yaotian, the medicine field, her scalp went cold. The Yaotian was a national SS-level secret, a matter that affected the physiques of hundreds of millions of soldiers and civilians in Yangxia. In other words, it was directly tied to the country's defense strength. How could such a thing possibly be overheard by ordinary people? Sweat beaded on her forehead. God of War, rest assured. I'll investigate right away, she muttered. Half an hour later, Shu Linger's family pulled up at the Crystal Palace Hotel. Li Yuhuan's maternal relatives were already gathered at the entrance. A shriveled grandmother, a big uncle with a paunch, a heavily made-up aunt, and several lively children. Before stepping out of the car, Yuhuan hissed a reminder. If any of my relatives ask about the old man, tell them he's in the ICU and couldn't come. Understood? Otherwise, I won't have the face to go back to my parents' home. Shu Dahai nodded guiltily. Understood. Yuhuan got out and greeted them with practiced warmth. Mother, big brother, big sister, you came so early. They all nodded coldly, which made Yuhuan feel awkward. Shu Linger, however, jumped up to greet them too. Grandma, big uncle, big aunt, you must have been waiting a long time. At the sight of Shu Linger, Grandma's expression finally softened. She'd always looked down on Shu Dahai and had been displeased when Yuhuan insisted on marrying him. For years, she had been distant toward the couple. If it hadn't been for Shu Linger, Grandma probably wouldn't have come to Linhai at all. Big uncle and big aunt, though, remained expressionless. Grandma squeezed Shu Linger's hand. Girl, how many times have I told you? Eat more, eat more. You're too thin. Shu Linger stuck out her tongue and pulled a face. Grandma, I've gained weight, really. It's just growing upwards. Her mischievous answer delighted Grandma. The old woman's face crinkled with a laugh. Shu Dahai hurriedly offered a cigarette to Big Uncle. Big brother, have a smoke. Big Uncle took it, saw the pack, soft china, over 60 yuan a pack, and immediately scowled. Shu Dahai, are you putting on airs? Don't you know our family's situation? You can't be buying such expensive cigarettes. I earn over 200,000 a year, not counting bonuses, and I only smoke 20 yuan Suyan cigarettes. Shu Dahai began weakly. Big Uncle sneered. You think smoking pricier cigarettes will make people look up to you? It only makes a joke of you. On this point, Shu Dahai fell silent. Big Uncle worked as a section chief in a government agency and despised private business people like him. He bossed Shu Dahai around constantly. Even his children felt free to criticize him. Shu Dahai was used to taking it. In the family, he had long ago been labeled a spineless son-in-law. Big Aunt, impatient with Grandma and Shu Linger's closeness, snapped, All right, Mother, if you want to be affectionate, do it inside. Don't delay my daughter Xuer's birthday. Li Yuhuan froze. Xuer's birthday? Big Aunt replied briskly, Yes, today is Xuer's 25th birthday. Yuhuan pleaded, as if bargaining, Big sister, a 25th birthday isn't as important as a 23rd coming of age. Can't Xuer celebrate another day? When Xuer had her coming of age ceremony, I postponed Linger's birthday for her. Big Aunt bristled. Your daughter's birthday is a birthday, and my daughter's isn't. What kind of thing to say? Besides, even if I agreed to postpone it, Xuer's boyfriend wouldn't go for that. He booked a banquet at the Crystal Palace and wants to make a big show of it. She added with sly emphasis, Xuer's boyfriend is military, high class. So later, when you all come, behave with some elegance. Don't act stingy or poor like usual, or we'll be looked down on by him. 162. Embarrassing thing when Li Yuhuan heard that, she hurried to explain. Big sister, actually Xiao Ye also reserved a meal at the Crystal Palace. The aunt burst out laughing. Do you think the Crystal Palace is some neighborhood diner anyone can just walk into and book? To enter that place, you need a membership card. You say you booked a meal. Where's the card? Li Yuhuan glanced at Ye Wudao. He shook his head. We don't need a membership card. The aunt only laughed harder. Oh, please. The Crystal Palace is practically mine. I'm even planning to give it to Shu Linger as a gift. Why would I need a membership card? You think your face gets you past the council? You can get in without one? She mocked him openly. Honestly, you have no sense, but you sure know how to brag. You're going to make a fool of yourself. Worse, she pulled out her membership card and led the way toward the hotel entrance. Grandma looked from Shu Dahai to Ye Wudao, sorrow written on her face. My poor daughter, she sighed. How did our son-in-law end up worse than the last? Shu Linger flushed and tried to defend him. Grandma, actually Xiao Ye isn't as useless as you think. He's capable. Grandma squeezed her hand, pitying her. Oh, my poor granddaughter. Well, if you like him, I won't say any more. Li Yuhuan grew increasingly flustered, her face going from green to pale. Dahai, I really didn't expect Shueyer's birthday to be today, too, she muttered. With my sister's family here, they'll steal Linger's thunder. She glanced anxiously at the empty chair where Linger's father should have been. And your father didn't come. The coming-of-age ceremony might be ruined. Poor Linger won't even get blessings from the family. Shu Dahai looked ashamed. Wife, let's see how things go. I'll call my dad again and try to get him here. Li Yuhuan rubbed her forehead. If worse comes to worse, we'll celebrate Linger's ceremony separately after your family leaves. She lowered her voice. It's so unfair to Linger. Shu Dahai bowed his head in shame. He felt helpless. With the aunt's membership card, she confidently led the group into the hotel. As they passed the Crystal Palace's most luxurious private room, golden branches and jade leaves, Ye Wudao stopped and turned to them. Dad, Mom, Linger, let's go in, he said. Shu Dahai and Li Yuhuan hesitated, but then followed. The aunt's face twisted in outrage. Ye, what are you doing? She cried. This is the hotel's top private room, reserved for celebrities and the city's most distinguished guests. Only people on the level of Lin Hai's richest man or the city head are allowed in. Shuer's boyfriend booked a regular second-tier room on the second floor. Ye Wudao looked at her calmly. This room is mine. A chorus of scorn erupted. You? Comparable to Lin Hai's richest man or the city head? Someone sneered. You must have gone mad in jail. Laughter rippled through the group. Yi ignored the barbs and repeated, more insistently, Dad, Mom, Linger, come on. Shu Dahai and Li Yuhuan exchanged a look. They trusted that Ye Wudao wouldn't make trouble for no reason, so they walked in after him. The aunt sniffed in disgust. Humph, what a disgrace, she muttered. If the hotel kicks you out later, don't say you know us. We won't be dragged into this. At that moment, a receptionist at the hotel spotted Ye Wudao and felt her stomach drop. Mr. Ye is here. Why is no one attending to him? I told the doorman at least 8, maybe 10 times. She could not risk a delay. Snapping into action, she called for 10 etiquette attendants and hurried toward the private room, flustered and fleet-footed. The doorman had been watching Mr. Ye the whole time, but earlier Ye Wudao had been lost in a crowd and hadn't been recognized. When the front desk staff marched toward the private room, aunt, uncle, and the others hurriedly backed away. Stay away from Yuhuan's family, they whispered. We don't want to get involved. They assumed the front desk had come to throw Shu Linger's guests out. Instead, everyone stared in surprise as 10 uniformed hostesses were led into the room. They bowed in unison. Welcome, esteemed guests, they said, then began pouring tea and water and fussing over the table. Once the trays were set down, the hostesses fell into a careful, obedient line beside the table, waiting to serve. Ye Wudao gave them a single look. You may leave, he said. The hostesses hesitated. This private room was supposed to be staffed. Was Ye dismissing them? Leave, he repeated, his tone cold. These women, he implied, were not fit to remain at Shu Linger's coming-of-age celebration. Begrudgingly, the front desk manager bowed. Very well, sir. Please call us if you need anything. As the hostesses were led away, the manager stopped in front of Aunt and Uncle and said icily, Ladies and gentlemen, please stay back from this private room so you don't disturb our most distinguished guests. Aunt and Uncle stared, stunned. Did Ye actually reserve this private room? He was only an ex-convict. How could he possibly book a place like this? Uncle finally blurted out, Hello, we're with them. With them? The manager looked to Ye for confirmation. Ye Wudao nodded, reluctantly. Only then did the manager's expression soften. My apologies for the confusion. Please come in. They filed into the room in a daze. Aunt leaned close to her daughter and whispered, Cher, tell me, what is happening? Cher frowned, puzzled, then smacked her forehead. Oh, my boyfriend said he had a surprise for me. This must be the room he reserved. Besides, she added, Zhouhu's in the military. Reserving a private room like this wouldn't be a problem for him. Aunt still looked uncertain. But how would Ye know that Zhouhu had reserved it? Do they know each other? Shuer turned to Ye. Ye Wudao, do you know my boyfriend Zhouhu? Yi's eyes narrowed. Joe who? From Joe Village? Yes, that's him, she said quickly. Ye replied coldly. I know him. A dozen thoughts chased through Ye Wudao's head. Isn't Zhou Hu supposed to be engaged to Zhou Xiaomei? How could he be Xue's boyfriend? If he was seeing two women at once, he was a cad. For Zhou Dianping's sake, Ye decided he would make sure the truth came out. He pulled out his phone and messaged her. Dianping, have your sister come to the Crystal Palace Hotel. Hearing him say he knew Zhou Hu, An and Shui relaxed. So the private room must really have been Zhou Hu's doing. His influence ran deeper than they'd expected. They had assumed Li Yuhuan's son-in-law, a former convict, couldn't possibly have arranged something like this. Relief washed over them. At that moment, Shui's phone buzzed. Zhou Hu was calling. 164. This has to be exposed. Shui answered her phone. Brother Hu, where are you? Why aren't you here yet? I'm here, Zhou Hu said. I'm waiting in the private room on the second floor. Where are you? We're in the Golden Jade Leaf room, Shui replied. There was a beat of surprise on his end. Why are you in that room? Get out. That's not a place we should be in. Shui laughed. Brother Hu, you're a good actor. I almost believed you. Don't hide it, Zhou Hu continued. I know. Your surprise was booking the Golden Jade Leaf room. Zhou Hu briefly froze. How could he possibly have reserved the Golden Jade Leaf room? He hadn't. But hearing Shui say it, he decided to let the misunderstanding stand. It would make him look impressive and might win her over. He gave an embarrassed chuckle. Heh, you figured it out. I was going to surprise you. Wait there, I'll be right over. She hung up and glared at Ye Wudao. Humph, it was obviously Brother Hu reserved the room, but you kept insisting it was you. That's shameless. Aunt chimed in with a snort. Being poor isn't the problem. Being poor and shameless is. If you can't afford the jewelry, don't pretend you can. Shulinger's family looked stunned. Could it really have been Zhou Hu who booked the room? Had Ye Wudao taken credit? How could Xiao Ye do such a thing? Grandma stepped in to change the subject. Shu Dahai, where's your father? Why didn't he come to Linger's coming-of-age ceremony? Shu Dahai stammered. My dad's sick. He's in the ICU. He couldn't make it. Tsk. The eldest uncle scoffed. Sick? Who are you trying to fool? Everyone knows your family looks down on you. They didn't even bother to show up. Humph. A grown man and this useless. Pathetic. Caught in the lie, Shu Dahai went pale and couldn't meet anyone's eyes. At that moment, Zhou Hu finally arrived, breathless. Sorry, I'm late. Something came up and delayed me. Shui purred. Brother Hu, where did you go just now? I went to pick up your birthday present, he said. Shui's face lit up. A birthday present? You've been preparing it all this time? Another big surprise? I'm so excited. Aunt pointed at Ye Wudao and asked, Who's he? Do you know this man? Zhou Hu looked over at Ye Wudao, surprised. What a small world. I didn't expect to run into him here. It was that man who'd pushed Renhe Pharmaceutical into tearing down Zhou Village and who'd gotten scolded by Chen Sanhe. He couldn't resist a bite. Know him? Of course I do. Isn't he that ex-con friend of Zhou Dianping? We even had a drink yesterday. Zhou Dianping? Aunt, puzzled, asked, Who's that? Zhou Hu smiled. Zhou Dianping, you must have heard of him. That line, it's impossible to work, came from Zhou Dianping himself. Laughter broke out around the table. Everyone knew Zhou Dianping as a notorious character, a clownish figure who'd been mocked more than once. An ex-con like Ye Wudao associating with him seemed only fitting. Ye Wudao, unruffled, looked toward Zhou Hu and said calmly, Zhou Hu, do you happen to know Zhou Dianping's younger sister, Zhou Xiaomei? I hear she mentions you often. Want me to invite her over to join us? The moment someone murmured Zhou Xiaomei, Zhou Hu's face tightened. A cold prickle ran down his spine. He'd already made a private promise to Zhou Xiaomei. She clung to him like glue, and if she found out he was seeing other women behind her back, he knew she'd make a scene. He'd end up with nothing. He shot a warning glance at Ye Wudao and hurriedly steered the conversation away. Today's Shui's birthday. Don't mention that convict. Bad luck. He changed the subject with a grin. By the way, Shui, do you like the present I brought? With that, he produced a glittering diamond ring, 3 carats, brilliant and elegant. Shui's eyes widened. Oh my, it's gorgeous. The younger relatives crowded around, voices full of admiration. That must be at least 3 carats, worth 700,000 or 800,000. Brother-in-law sure knows how to be thoughtful. I'm so jealous of Sister Shuer. If someone gave me a ring like that, I'd marry him on the spot. Johu smiled and asked again, Shuer, do you really like it? She beamed. I love it. I love it. Put it on me yourself. Of course. Johu slid the ring onto her finger. Shuer deliberately wiggled the hand, showing off to Shu Linger with a triumphant look. Then Johu turned to the aunt. Aunt, you've worked so hard taking care of Shuer all these years. Today is her day. You're the guest of honor. This is for you. He produced a rolled set of scrolls and handed them over. The aunt, surprised and delighted, carefully unrolled them. Oh, a present for me too? What is it? Johu announced. It's Tangbohu's night scene of the Spring River. I just acquired it yesterday. It's worth 500,000. The aunt went pale. What? She stared at the painting in disbelief. A Tangbohu? 500,000? Others tallied it up aloud. He spent over 1 million on our family today, one way or another. Huzi, you've gone all out. Johu shrugged. Aunt and Shuer being happy is priceless. What's a little money? Amazing. Simply amazing. The aunt ran her fingers over the scroll, praising Johu endlessly. The younger relatives clustered around to admire the painting as well, showering compliments. The eldest uncle stepped forward with a gift of his own and handed it to Shuer. Shuer, your eldest uncle isn't sure what you like, but I heard a lot of young people have been scrambling for that new Estee Lauder set. I pulled some strings and got you one. I hope you'll like it. Shuer was visibly surprised. Thank you, eldest uncle. I've been coveting the charming lady set for ages. It's limited edition. Sometimes you can't buy it even with money. You're a capable one, eldest uncle, someone joked. I want to go into politics like you when I grow up. The eldest uncle smiled and nodded. All right, I'll talk to my unit another time. You can come work there. Then, turning to Shu Linger, he added, and for you, Linger, this is from me. He handed her a slim little book. You're going into business someday, and as the saying goes, the marketplace is a battlefield. Experience is everything. I thought you could learn from this, the Business Sutra. The gift was a 10-yuan paperback, a stark contrast to the limited edition cosmetics worth tens or even hundreds of thousands. It felt less like a present and more like an insult. Schulinger managed a polite smile despite the sting. Thank you, eldest uncle. Aunt suddenly piped up, looking toward Li Yuhuan. Yuhuan, Huzi and your eldest uncle have given gifts to Shuer. Didn't you prepare anything? Li Yuhuan faltered, words caught in her throat. She hadn't even been told Shuer was celebrating a birthday. How was she supposed to have prepared anything? Besides, today was meant to center on Shu Linger's coming of age. Their gifts were supposed to be for Linger. The question left her visibly flustered. 166. Can she afford it? Auntie scoffed. Forget it. With your family's finances, there's no way you can give a decent gift. This is fine too, Shu Dahai muttered, eyes rimmed red. At least we don't have to return anything. Returning a gift would humiliate us. He bowed his head, guilt and self-reproach written all over his face. Grandma's jaw tightened as she glanced at him. How unlucky they were, she thought, marrying into a family with a good-for-nothing son-in-law who couldn't even protect his own wife and daughter. She was the one who always had to step in. With trembling hands, she pulled out a faded handkerchief and reached into it. Linger, today is your 23rd coming-of-age ceremony. From today on, you're a grown woman. Her voice softened. I don't ask you to be famous or rich. I only hope you can be happy. She pressed something into Schulinger's palm. This is our family's ancestral gold bracelet. Take it. Consider it Grandma's blessing. Schulinger's eyes shimmered. Despite everything, it was Grandma who had always favored her. She opened her mouth to thank her when Auntie jumped in, voice sharp with accusation. Mom, your eldest granddaughter is sitting right here. Is it proper to give the younger one the better gift first? Grandma's face flushed. She spoke hurriedly, trying to smooth things over. Oh, don't be silly. A coming of age happens only once, but birthdays can be celebrated again and again. Today, let the second sister's family have their way a little. Auntie sneered. Have their way? Why don't I get to have my way then? Look at her. She's already wearing a diamond ring. A silver bracelet won't match that. The gold is more appropriate for her. Besides, can Linger even afford to wear something like that? Before anyone could stop her, Auntie snatched the gold bracelet from Linger's hand and handed it to Schwer. Schwer, say thank you to Grandma. Schwer took it with an insolent smile. Thank you, Grandma. Then she shot a look at Schulinger, provocative, triumphant. Grandma stood there, mortified and flustered, unable to think how to undo it. Schulinger swallowed the hurt and forced a smile, voice trembling. Grandma, I really like this silver bracelet. Thank you. Grandma sighed and tried to reassure her. If you like it, that's what matters. But the sigh was also a glare shot toward Yewudao. He had been silent all evening, and Grandma's disappointment was written across her face. If Johu could give a diamond ring and expensive calligraphy and paintings, why hadn't Yewudao said a word? Her own son-in-law, useless, it seemed, had failed her in the one thing she had hoped for. Yewudao, however, appeared to have been watching the antique scrolls on the wall. He turned to his mother, Li Yuan. Mom, do you like calligraphy and paintings? He asked casually. Li Yuan's eyes lit up. Yes, when I was young, I worked in a museum. I've always loved antiques like these. Yewudao slapped a hand to his forehead, as if remembering something important. Well, that makes it easy. He stepped over and unhooked a hanging scroll, then handed it to her. Mom, this painting, Plum, Orchid, Bamboo, and Chrysanthemum, by Zheng Bangqiao, was bought by the former boss of Crystal Palace, Boss Ren, at Sotheby's in the United States for $20 million. He said it like he was announcing a private treasure. Since you like it, I want you to have it. For a moment, the private room was utterly still. Then laughter erupted. It started in the younger crowd and quickly spread until people were doubled over, some audible snorts cutting through the air. They looked at Yewudao the way one looks at someone who's just made a ridiculous claim, and he sat there, earnest and unembarrassed, passing the scroll into his mother's hands. Schulinger's eyes blurred with a different kind of emotion. She managed a small, tight smile and turned the silver bracelet over in her fingers, trying to keep the sting to herself. Around her, the family's displays of wealth and one-upmanship continued, leaving her feeling both strangely apart and painfully exposed. A young woman no longer a child, painfully aware of what people expected and what others had taken from her without a second thought. Ha ha, giving away hotel property as presents. Who does he think he is? Even an idiot wouldn't be that brazen. Is Linger blind? How could she have chosen such a fool for a boyfriend? Schwer laughed until she had tears in her eyes. I'm stunned. I've never seen someone so shameless. Johu smirked, sking. Yewudao, put that back right now. I'm very familiar with the hotel manager, Yewudao replied calmly, and the entire Crystal Palace Hotel belongs to me. What does it matter if I tear this painting? The room exploded with louder laughter. The idea that the ex-convict before them owned the whole Crystal Palace was the most ridiculous thing any of them had heard that day. Johu doubled over laughing, then barked out his own boast. I'm the council's heir. Yanxia practically belongs to me. Don't push it, someone else snapped. Do you want me to call the hotel manager and have you fined into bankruptcy? Shu Dahai's face grew pale with worry. Xiaoye, even if you know Ren Susu, don't go too far. Put the painting back. Your parents will appreciate the thought, but this is wrong. Johu leaned in with a warning. Don't you know? Ren Susu already sold her shares to a mysterious buyer. Now, manager Xia Meng is the one who runs Crystal Palace. This is your last warning. Put the painting back, or I'll call her. Yewudao shrugged. Go ahead. Johu's expression turned smug. Of course he'd come out on top. He'd made Xia Meng manager. What would she dare do? He pulled out his phone and dialed while the Shu family hovered, faces strained with panic. If the ownership had changed and Yewudao had no backing, this was a disaster. Call Ren Susu, Shu Dahai whispered to his son. Even though she's no longer involved, her influence might help you. Yewudao smiled faintly. Don't worry, Dad. I can handle this. His aunt scoffed. Handle it? With what? Your thick skin? She shot a disgusted look at him. This son-in-law of ours is worthless. I didn't expect Shu Dahai to pick someone even more useless than himself. He's no match for my Huzi at all. Grandmother folded her hands and scolded coldly. Yewudao, do you understand? You can't compare to Johu, and maybe you won't even try, but do you think people will take you seriously like this? You'll only make yourself look ridiculous. I warn you, mess around all you like, but if you drag Linger into this, I will not let her marry you. Ye Wudao only smiled and said nothing. If they were worried about Linger, he had no intention of escalating the argument. By the time the words landed, manager Xia Meng had arrived. The private room, Golden Bow Jade Leaf, fell silent. Everyone hurried to stand and greet her with forced smiles. Zhou Hu wasted no time. Manager Xia, this is the man. He's been trying to take hotel property, gave away our items like they were his. He even claims the Crystal Palace belongs to him. He turned to the others and added, I suggest you sue him for theft and for damaging the hotel's reputation. Xia Meng regarded Ye Wudao coolly, the air of authority about her unmistakable. The room held its breath, waiting to see how this would unfold. Xia Meng smiled and turned to Ye Wudao. Mr. Ye is correct. This hotel does belong to him. Zhou Hu snorted. Humph, did you hear that, Ye Wudao? What do you have to say now? Wait, Manager Xia, what did you just say? Everyone strained to listen, afraid they'd misheard. Xia Meng stepped forward and bowed slightly to Ye. Mr. Ye, I'm sorry to have disturbed your meal. Ye Wudao only nodded. Xia Meng reached into her bag, pulled out a contract, and handed it to Shu Linger. Miss Linger, this is Mr. Ye's birthday present for you. Please accept it. Shu Linger frowned. What is it? You'll see when you open it, Xia Meng said. Shu Linger unfolded the contract and read it carefully. After a moment, her eyes widened, and she rubbed them as if to make sure she wasn't mistaken. I didn't misread this, did I? This is a share subscription agreement for the Crystal Palace Hotel? 30% of the shares? Ye Wudao, you're giving me 30% of the Crystal Palace Hotel. Yi nodded. Do you like it? Her heart pounding, Shu Linger could hardly speak. Explain this to me. When did you acquire the Crystal Palace Hotel? Impossible. This can't be. Zhou Hu lunged for the contract and snatched it up, scanning it with frantic eyes. A moment later, his hands began to shake, and the paper slipped from them to the floor. The document was clear as day. Ye Wudao had indeed acquired 30% of the Crystal Palace Hotel and had transferred that stake to Shu Linger as a gift. The room fell into stunned silence. If even Zhou Hu had confirmed the contract, it wasn't a forgery. Xia Meng certainly wouldn't have brought a fake document. That meant the hotel actually belonged to him. He was giving away his own property. Everyone stared at Ye as if they had been struck. He was, after all, a former reform through labor prisoner. How could he possibly have hundreds of millions to buy 30% of a high-end hotel? Zhou Hu's diamond ring, worth only a few $100,000, suddenly looked paltry beside this contract. Li Yuhuan's face lit up with excitement. She smiled broadly and said, ostentatiously, Manager Xia, may I ask, if my son-in-law is gifting this to my daughter, may I accept his calligraphy and painting in return? She said it like a kindly question, but the tone was clearly meant to show off and humiliate the others. Xia Meng answered quickly, all the items in the Crystal Palace Hotel belong to Mr. Ye and Miss Shu. There's nothing wrong with them gifting their property. Good, Li Yuan beamed. But Xiao Ye, while your gift is generous, it's nothing compared to the calligraphy and painting that Mr. Zhou brought. She waved a hand at Zhou Hu's displayed artwork. Look at its size. That piece of Tang Bohu calligraphy in your family's collection should be worth hundreds of millions. Zhou Hu really got a bargain. Hundreds of millions? The elders in Zhou Hu's circle blinked, their eyes widened. Li Yuhuan had been an archaeology expert in her younger years, so her judgment carried weight. Is it really worth that much? Someone asked. Li nodded. From what I know, M Dynasty calligraphy and paintings weren't usually this large. If this is truly a Tang Bohu from the M Dynasty, and of this size, it would be unprecedented. History would have to be rewritten. How could an artifact big enough to rewrite history not be worth a fortune? She added. Her extravagant praise was loaded. The subtext was clear. Her words were almost too absurd to be taken at face value, and that absurdity was meant to cast doubt on the painting's authenticity. Shu Linger couldn't help but laugh. When had her mother learned such cutting sarcasm? The remark landed hard. Zhou Hu's face darkened. Li Yuhuan, don't talk nonsense, he snapped. You're not an expert on the M Dynasty. How can you say there weren't works like that back then? Before Li could retort, Xia Meng interjected, curiosity edged with something more serious. Oh, now that's strange. How did this calligraphy and painting end up in your hands? Is there something hidden in this painting? Zhou Hu blurted, panic quickening his voice. Manager Xia, do you know anything about this piece? Xiameng nodded. Of course I do. This painting is a mass-printed piece, he continued. They hung copies of it in the lower-grade private rooms. They only sell for 2,000 or 3,000 yuan each. A few days ago, a corner of one was burned, so we threw it away, he added. I didn't expect anyone to pick it up. The eldest aunt's hands clenched into fists. She looked as if she wanted to throttle Zhou Hu. This wasn't an antique at all, just a printed decoration, and he'd given it to her as a gift after picking it out of the trash. The humiliation seared her face. Zhou Hu went red and stammered. Manager Xia, you've got it wrong. I didn't get this from the rubbish. I bought it at an antique shop. Besides, mine doesn't have a burn hole. Shuo hurried to back him up. Yes, this can't be the same one you threw away. Xiameng studied the scroll and said, It actually looks shorter than the ones we used. If I'm not mistaken, the hanging has been shifted up so it conceals the burn. Pull the scroll down a little and check the lower right corner, he instructed. The eldest uncle reached forward and tugged the scroll down. Sure enough, beneath the lifted section was a burned hole in the bottom right. Zhou Hu was left speechless. With the evidence staring everyone in the face, there was no defense. The family's faces flushed. The insult landed hard. Someone else's son-in-law was giving away shares worth hundreds of millions, while their own son-in-law handed over trash. Ye Wudao's expression went cold. Xiameng, he said sharply, that artwork belongs to the hotel. How could you dispose of it so carelessly? You must take full responsibility for the loss to the hotel. I order you to buy this painting back with your own money. Xiameng froze. Ye Wudao was never normally so petty. There had to be a reason. Before anyone else could intervene, Shu Linger stepped forward. That's enough, father. Why make such a fuss over a small thing? The painting isn't worth much. Let it go. Li Yuan also tried to speak for him, but Ye Wudao cut them off. Mom, Linger, don't interfere. This is about rules. If a general manager can break them on a whim, how are we supposed to run the team? Shu Linger looked ready to argue, but Xiameng beat her to it. I'm sorry, Mr. Ye. It was my mistake. He turned to Zhou Hu. You've seen the situation. I'll offer 10,000 yuan. Please return the painting to me. Li Yuan's chest tightened. 10,000 yuan for a damaged mass-printed piece? It felt like a waste. Zhou Hu, however, didn't hesitate. No problem. He'd bought the painting for 500 yuan. Selling it for 10,000 was an enormous markup. Xiameng transferred the money immediately. As soon as the transfer went through, Zhou Hu handed over the scroll. Shu Linger couldn't hide her irritation. Are you pleased with yourself, paying 10,000 for a defective piece? Ye Wudao smiled thinly and, without answering, passed the painting to Shu Linger. Linger, hold this for me. Why? She asked, puzzled. Just hold it, he said. Shu Linger took it reluctantly. Ye Wudao drank some water, then deliberately flicked droplets toward the painting. Ye Wudao, what are you doing? She cried. You spent a lot of money. Are you destroying it? I'm not destroying it, Ye Wudao replied calmly. I'm revealing its value. Something clicked in Li Yuan's eyes. Her face brightened with sudden excitement. Xiaoye, you don't mean there's more to this painting than we thought, she said. Ye Wudao nodded once. Exactly. Go on. Li Yuan could barely contain her eagerness. All right, Chapter 170. Even if I play tricks on you, what can I do? Everyone stared, bewildered by the murmured exchange between the two of them. Li Yuan lifted the scroll and, after a moment's hesitation, began to rub the scorch mark left by the burn. To everyone's astonishment, she eased the painting apart as if it were glued in layers, the surface paper peeling away cleanly to reveal another layer beneath. People leaned forward, breath held. Where the top layer came off with difficulty, she sprayed a little water from her mouth and the papers separated more easily. Beneath the thin, peeled sheet was a powerful, flowing brushwork of classical calligraphy. In the lower right corner, the characters were unmistakable. Wang Shiji, and beside them the title 17 Tai. A collective gasp swept through the room. Wang Shiji. One character of his name was worth a fortune on its own. And here, revealed under the top layer, was the famed 17 Tai, second only to the preface to the Orchid Pavilion in renown. Its value must run into the tens of millions. To have this whole masterpiece quietly change hands for only 10,000 yuan was nothing short of a miracle of fortune. Li Yuan's fingers trembled as she quickly folded the calligraphy back up and tucked it away, fearful that Zhou Hu or anyone else might change their minds. For a collector, a lucky find is priceless. It can't be bought back with any sum. Yi Wudao's face went red with anger. It was as if tens of millions had slipped through her fingers. "Huzi," she barked at Zhou Hu. "That painting was given to me by you. How could you sell it to someone else? Return their money and take the painting back," she added, eyes blazing. Zhou Hu's shoulders sagged as he understood what she wanted. "Fine," he said quickly. "I'm not going to sell it anymore. I'll return the money. You give me the painting." Yi Wudao nodded, apparently placated. "Okay," Li Yuan protested, anxious. "No, Xiaoye, they already sold it. They can't just take it back now. That would be breaking the rules." Yi Wudao squeezed Li Yuan's hand, trying to soothe her. "Mom, keeping this piece would be useless to us now. Give it back." Before Li Yuan could argue further, Zhou Hu had already transferred the money back to Ye Wudao. "The money is yours. Give me the painting." Ye Wudao handed back the thin top layer that Li Yuan had just peeled away. "Here," she said, as if it settled everything. But Zhou Hu's face went white with fury. "You're pretending to be stupid, Xiaoye. I want Wang Shiji's 17 tai," he snapped. Ye Wudao answered calmly, with just a trace of smugness. "But the piece we bought from you was Tang Bohu's night scene on the Spring River. That's what we paid for. Why are you demanding the 17 tai?" Zhou Hu could barely control his anger. You dared to trick me." Ye Wudao's face was cold. "It was a fair transaction. Trick or no trick, what can you do?" The back and forth left some in the crowd uneasy. Shuer, who had been trying to shine next to Shu Linger, felt completely eclipsed and tried to save face with a huff. "Bah, those calligraphy scraps could lose value tomorrow. What's there to brag about?" She turned and held up her hand, displaying a glittering diamond ring. "This is practical. Diamonds last forever. They pass down from generation to generation." Zhou Hu seized on it instantly. "Exactly. This ring represents my true feelings for Shuer. It's not something a pile of worthless paper could compare with." Xiaomeng, who'd been watching with a sly smile, suddenly reached into her bag and pulled out a slip of paper. "Speaking of diamond rings," she said brightly, "I found this receipt at the door a moment ago. It's signed by Zhou Hu." "Zhou Hu, your receipt." She tossed it toward him. Zhou Hu's smile froze. His so-called diamond ring wasn't even real. It was a high-quality fake he'd bought on the black market for 3,000 yuan. A receipt? Where on earth would that have come from? For a moment, he had no answer, as everyone looked at him, waiting for him to explain. 171. You actually have a fiancé. The invoice shows the diamond ring you bought is worth 1 million. Is this yours, Zhou Hu? Xiaomeng's voice rang out across the private room. A collective gasp swept through the table. 1 million. Everyone's eyes turned to Zhou Hu, who could only force a smile. "Yes, that's my invoice," he said, trying to sound casual. "I didn't mean to reveal the price. Guess the invoice betrayed me." Cher blinked, visibly touched. "Brother Hu, you're so generous. Thank you." Zhou Hu laughed awkwardly. "It's nothing, really." Then Xiaomeng suddenly frowned and muttered, "Oh wait, I misread it. It's not 1 million, it's 1,000. I misread the unit." 1,000? The mood in the room shifted instantly. Faces hardened and suspicious looks zeroed in on Zhou Hu. He felt a cold sweat break out. "No way. This invoice isn't mine. I clearly spent 3,000. He choked on the word and slapped a hand over his mouth, realization dawning too late. Shuer and her aunt flared with anger. Zhou Hu had just admitted it. The so-called diamond ring was cheap, a 3,000 yuan fake. They'd been made to look like fools. "You go to hell," Shuer snapped. Zhou Hu wanted nothing more than to disappear beneath the table. Xiameng's smile had gone sly and triumphant. In reality, the invoice had been staged. She'd seen Zhou Hu and his friends trying to embarrass Ye Wudao earlier and decided to give Ye a way out. The fake invoice exposed Zhou Hu's bragging and made him look ridiculous. "I won't disturb your meal any longer," Xiaomeng said, standing. "If you need me, just call." She moved toward the door but paused to glance back. "Zhou Hu, do you still need the lower-grade private room you booked? If not, I'll cancel it for you." Shuer suddenly remembered something. "Manager Xia, Who booked the Golden Branch? Jade Leaf private room? Shimeng turned and answered plainly, Mr. Ye booked it. Why do you ask? The truth hit everyone at once. Johu had only paid for a cheap private room. The luxurious Golden Branch Jade Leaf room had been reserved by Ye Wudao all along. Johu had been taking credit for something he didn't do. The last shred of his dignity evaporated. The atmosphere in the room turned heavy and ashamed. Anton Schwer stared at him with such hostility he thought they might devour him. Finally, Grandma broke the silence. Let's eat first. We'll deal with everything else later. She shot Ye Wudao a small, comforting smile. This grandson-in-law seemed to be far more substantial than Shu Dahai. Her granddaughter might not be stuck in a mediocre life like Li Yuan's. That thought pleased her. Just then, Ye Wudao's phone buzzed. It was Zhou Dianping on the line. Lao Ye, Xiao Mei and I are at the Crystal Palace Hotel. Where are you? Come to the Golden Branch Jade Leaf private room, Ye replied. Okay, we'll be right there, Zhou Dianping said. When he hung up, Shu Linger asked, curious, Did you invite other guests? Ye nodded. Yes, they're coming. A few minutes later, there was a knock on the private room door. Come in, Ye called. Zhou Dianping and a young woman walked in together. The sight of Zhou Xiaomei made Zhouhu's face drop. He visibly recoiled. Damn it, why is she here? If she knew the truth about him, his double dealing would be exposed. Zhou Xiaomei, however, stopped when she saw Zhouhu and looked surprised. Brother Hu, why are you here? Zhouhu stammered. Cher, bewildered, asked. Zhouhu, I didn't know you had a sister. Why does she call you Brother Hu? Zhou Xiaomei smiled and corrected her gently. I'm not his sister. I'm his fiancée. Fiancée, Cher exploded, stunned. Zhouhu, you actually have a fiancée. Speak of the devil, and he appears. Zhou Xiaomei looked stunned. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? What's wrong with me being his fiancée? Shu Linger's voice was cold. Zhouhu told me he was single. He's been pursuing me, and he even showed up at my birthday tonight. Damn it, Zhou Xiaomei swore. Zhouhu, you're a dog. Two-timing. Zhouhu's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Ye Wudao. It was obvious that Ye Wudao had called Zhou Xiaomei over and exposed him. This scoundrel had set him up. He couldn't let it go. Grinding his teeth, he hissed, Ye Wudao, you bastard, this isn't over. He stalked out of the private room. Zhou Xiaomei grabbed his sleeve. You're not leaving. You owe me an explanation. You saw it with your own eyes, Zhouhu shot back. What more do you want me to say? The pair kept arguing as they left. Zhou Dianping hurried after them and stopped Zhou Xiaomei. Xiaomei, let it go. He's not worth it. A scoundrel like him doesn't deserve you. I told you so long ago, he added. Someone like Zhouhu should never have been for you. Zhou Xiaomei covered her face and broke down. Brother, I was wrong. I should have listened to you. Ye Wudao and Shu Linger stepped out of the private room as well. Xiaomei, don't be sad, Shu Linger said gently. You should be glad you're getting out now, before you get in too deep. Seeing Ye Wudao and Shu Linger standing so close, Zhou Xiaomei's tears turned sharper. They looked like a couple, Shu Linger so beautiful, graceful, and charming. Compared to her, Xiaomei felt plain and worthless. She cried harder. Finally, with Zhou Dianping's coaxing, she left reluctantly. Old Zhou, Ye Wudao said, turning to Zhou Dianping, today's my wife's coming-of-age ceremony. Why don't you come in and sit with us? Zhou Dianping laughed. All right, Lao Ye, you've learned to chase young girls now. Lucky you. At her age, she's willing to marry you. Treat her well. Shu Linger flushed. Brother Zhou, don't listen to him. We're not married yet. Zhou Dianping grinned. Sister-in-law, go ahead and marry Lao Ye. I know this kid. He's reliable. If he dares betray you after marriage, come tell Brother Zhou. I'll teach him a lesson. He raised a mock-threatening fist at Ye Wudao. Ye Wudao gave a wry smile. Zhou Dianping was just an employee. He wouldn't dare actually do anything. You two go celebrate first, Zhou Dianping continued. I've got a little business to sort out here. As an outsider, it's awkward for me to attend the ceremony. Who are you meeting? Ye Wudao asked. Zhou Dianping explained. The former owner of the hotel, Ren Susu. My superior told me that after the contract's signed, a few people will invite me to dinner. I almost refused, but I checked and heard Old Master Shu will be there, so I agreed. Old Master Shu? Ye Wudao asked, puzzled. Your grandfather, Shu Jiangguo, Zhou Dianping replied. It clicked for Ye Wudao. The Renhei pharmaceutical representative Chen Mei and Chen Yaji had invited must-be Zhou Dianping. He hadn't known about the Shu family's ties to Renhei, which explained why he'd agreed to the banquet so easily. Just then, the door to the private room opposite opened. Chen Mei and Chen Yaji walked out, followed by Shu Dashan and Old Master Shu Jiangguo. Chapter 173. Do you know Ye Wudao? Chen Yaji and her mother spotted Zhou Dianping the moment he walked in. What caught their attention even more was that he was with Ye Wudao. A cold knot formed in Chen Mei's stomach. Yaji, do you think Mr. Zhou knows Ye Wudao? She asked. Chen Yaji waved her off. Mom, you're overthinking it. He must have used knowing us as an excuse to cozy up to Mr. Zhou, Chen Mei persisted. Mr. Zhou doesn't know we've broken ties with him anymore. He's only being polite. Right. We need to straighten this out. We can't let Ye Wudao steal Mr. Zhou's favor. They hurried over, Shu Jiangguo and Shu Dashan close behind. From a distance, Chen Mei called out, Mr. Zhou, thank you for coming. Please forgive us for not coming out to greet you. Shu Jiangguo chimed in smoothly. Mr. Zhou, we've reserved a private room. Would you like to go in and talk there? Zhou Dianping nodded, then said to Ye Wudao, Lao Ye, I'll head in first. See you another time. Chen Mei bristled. What had Ye Wudao said to make Zhou treat them so politely, as if they were still on good terms? She hurried to explain. Mr. Zhou, you don't need to mind them. Did he tell you something that made you think our families are close? Zhou looked at her, expression flat. To be honest, the two families aren't on good terms. Not on good terms? Chen Mei repeated, aghast. Then Old Master Shu. She couldn't imagine Shu Jiangguo being aligned with their enemies. Shu Jiangguo cut in, face unreadable. They're disloyal, unjust, and unfilial. We severed ties with them long ago. Zhou's features shifted as he pieced things together. So that's the situation. Chen Yaji, seeing Zhou's friendliness toward Ye, couldn't help herself. Ye Wudao, how dare you lie to Mr. Zhou? He should be punished. Shouldn't we call the police? Zhou's voice was cool. Go ahead and call them. Chen Yaji's face lit up, until Zhou continued. Yes, the police should arrest you and teach you a lesson. Her hand froze over her phone. Mr. Zhou, what do you mean? Arrest us? Zhou snorted. You were the ones who deceived me, not Lao Ye. Chen Yaji stared. Mr. Zhou, how did we deceive you? Zhou explained slowly, almost icily. I agreed to come to this banquet because Shu Jiangguo, Lao Ye's grandfather, was supposedly here. I didn't expect that Shu Jiangguo had already cut ties with Lao Ye. You knew that and didn't tell me. You wasted my time. Isn't that deception? Chen Yaji's voice trembled with disbelief and dawning understanding. So you came out of respect for Ye Wudao? You know Ye Wudao? Zhao's eyes crinkled with a hint of irony. Of course I do. Lao Ye and I are sworn brothers. Sworn brothers. The words hit Chen Yaji like a blow. Ye Wudao again. How many ties? How much influence did he really have now? The man before her was nothing like the boy she'd dated. Wealth, power, connections. He seemed to be everything she had once overlooked. Regret and anger tangled inside her. Chen Mei's face burned with shame. If Ye Wudao had still been part of the family, they might have landed the Renhei pharmaceutical deal. Instead, because of their greed over 300,000 yuan, they had ruined an order worth tens of millions, maybe even 100 million. The thought made her stomach twist. Zhou's voice cut through the room, emotionless. Leave now. If you don't blame me for calling the police. Chapter 174. What right do you have to order us? Chen Yaji and her daughter no longer had the face to stay. They slipped away in embarrassment. Shu Jiangguo and Shu Dashan stood frozen, sure whether to leave or remain. They had originally used an invitation from Chen Yaji's family as their excuse for missing the coming-of-age ceremony, but now that the Chen family had, well, it was a delicate matter. Both men were mortified. At that moment, Ren Susu arrived. Seeing Zhou Dianping, she hurried over. Mr. Zhou, I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting. Zhou smiled politely. It's all right. I just arrived as well. Ren Susu glanced at Shu Dahai. Mr. Shu, what a coincidence. I was just about to call you. Shu Dahai blinked. Call me? Why? I'm about to take on a collaboration with Renhei Pharmaceutical, Ren Susu said. But I can't manage it on my own. I was hoping you'd team up with me to complete this project together. Shu Dahai nearly lost his breath. Collaborating with Renhei was a dream for any practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine. He could hardly contain his excitement. I'm willing, he blurted. How about we discuss the details in a private room? Mr. Zhao, Miss Ren? Zhou Dianping looked to Ye Wudao. Is this convenient now? If not, we can wait until after the ceremony, Ye Wudao said. We'll wait outside. No inconvenience at all, Ye added, and Zhou nodded. Then let's go. The group moved into a private room at Golden Branch Jade Leaf. Xu Jiangguo and Xu Deshan exchanged a glance, thought for a moment, and then decided to leave. They still refused to support Xu Linger. Grandma, watching them move away, called after them sharply. In-laws, are you really not attending Linger's coming-of-age ceremony? Xu Jiangguo shot back coldly. No time. Very well. Grandma sounded disappointed. Before they could get far, Ye Wudao snapped. Come back and sit down properly. Xu Jiangguo bristled. Who do you think you are, ordering us around? What kind of manners are these? Who says you can leave whenever you like? Ye Wudao asked evenly. What about the 100 million Shu Lily owes us? If you walk out now, I'll call the police and have Shu Lily arrested. At the mention of 100 million, the elders in the room paled. 100 million? Shu Lily actually owed that much? Xu Jiangguo, who could barely scrape together 100,000, went cold. Humiliated, he forced out, Humph. Of course we'll attend Linger's coming-of-age ceremony. But our staying has nothing to do with you, he added, trying to save face. They returned and took their seats in the Golden Branch Jade Leaf Hall. Ye Wudao hadn't insisted on their presence to secure blessings for Linger. He wanted them to see her current wealth and influence, to cow them so they would stop bullying her in the future. Grandma looked at Xu Dahai with complicated feelings. She had always thought of him as a good-for-nothing son-in-law, but now he had the chance to work with Renhei Pharmaceutical. She had been wrong to underestimate him. Quietly, she placed a dish on Xu Dahai's plate and said, with meaning in her voice, Dahai, eat. I never imagined you'd be collaborating with Renhei. That's your ability. Your mother misjudged you before. Don't blame your old mother. Her words left Xu Dahai and Li Yuhuan with mixed emotions. For the first time in a long while, there was a real sparkle in Xu Dahai's eyes. Chapter 175. Keep being our salesman. They had been married for decades, and ever since Xu Dahai had been branded a coward, the family matriarch had always treated them with thinly veiled contempt. She ignored them, withheld affection, all the small cruelties that come from a household that thinks itself superior. No one expected her to change, so when she suddenly warmed up to them, offered food, and even apologized, it felt like the end of a long winter. Xu Dahai knew why the tide had turned. It wasn't his courage or cleverness that had won the matriarch over. It was Ye Wudao. He couldn't let Ye Wudao take the blame for his own good fortune, but he also refused to hoard credit. Mom, he said, this is really Xiaoye's doing. The old woman looked confused. Xiaoye's doing? Xu Dahai nodded. Xiaoye told me to recruit more people, told me Renhei Pharmaceutical might be ready to sign a cooperation contract. If I'm not mistaken, this whole thing was arranged by him. Ye Wudao just smiled and waved him off. Dad, you're imagining things. I only suggested that Ren Susu team up with you. The real reason is your own capability. That's what won them over. Xu Dahai wasn't convinced, but he didn't argue further. Around them, Zhou Dianping and Ren Susu exchanged wry smiles. It was obvious to everyone else that Ye Wudao had orchestrated the deal behind the scenes, yet he kept dodging the spotlight. To them, it was baffling. The man who clearly held the reins at Renhei Pharmaceutical was acting as if he were nothing more than a humble connector. The world of the wealthy had its own rules. Then Ye Wudao turned his attention to Xu Linger. Linger, our family's businesses are all over the place. Construction, catering, medical. It's getting messy. Can you handle all of that? Xu Linger rubbed her temples and sighed. Yes, it's a bit chaotic, but I'll manage. I'll just give up some of my free time. Ye Wudao shook his head. No, I don't think you're meant to be juggling it all. What if we consolidate everything and form a group? He looked at her with a small, self-satisfied grin. I've already thought of a name, Dao Ling Group. You'll be the group director. Dad can oversee the medical side, and I'll handle our shares in the Crystal Palace. Her eyes lit up. Of course. Why didn't I think of that? We finally have the resources and capital to form a group. Once it's listed, the market value will soar. Hundreds of billions wouldn't be out of the question. We'll move up to a second-tier family in no time. She paused, then added, half teasing, half serious. But one thing, you can't be managing a catering subsidiary. A talent like you shouldn't be stuck with that. Xiao Yue should be the one taking care of that kind of work. Ye Wudao raised an eyebrow. And what do you think someone like me should do then? Schulinger grinned and declared without hesitation, keep being our salesman. He was speechless. You, our little salesman, pulled in Fang's construction company, the Qingcheng Love Project, a 30% stake in the Crystal Palace Hotel, and the contract with Renhei Pharmaceutical, she went on. Next time, you'll bring in something even bigger. It would be a crime to waste your talent on anything else. There was a beat of stunned silence, then a ripple of laughter. Yes, it would be a waste if he stopped doing what he did best. No, it wasn't just wasteful. It felt almost sacrilegious for someone with his nose for deals to be moved to some office job. Schulinger's praise carried the kind of affection that made everyone in the room smile. If anyone had earned the right to call him indispensable, it was her. Despite the flattering verdict, Ye Wudao didn't argue. He accepted the new organizational chart with a faint, resigned smile. He glanced over at Li Yuhuan and noticed she seemed a little withdrawn. It made sense. Everyone else in the room had roles that showcased their talents. Schulinger as the future group head, Xu Dahai entrusted with the medical side, the others basking in success. Li Yuhuan, by contrast, had only ever been a homemaker. Watching a family come into its own while feeling like a bystander would make anyone uneasy. Ye Wudao's expression softened. He couldn't change the past, but he could make sure no one felt left behind. Only once in a lifetime. Ye Wudao comforted her, smiling. Mom, weren't you an archaeologist when you were young? I actually have a few friends who are big names in archaeology. Another day I'll help you set up an antique shop and get my friends to give you a hand. Business will do very well. Schulinger, curious, piped up. Xiaoye, how do you have friends in every industry? Come on, tell me the truth. How many friends do you actually have? No, tell me, is there any industry where you don't have friends? Ye Wudao grinned. Plenty. They're spread all over Yanxia. There's an old saying, he joked. Wherever I go, someone's got my back. Schulinger scrunched her nose. Ugh, that's gross. Everyone laughed. Well, everyone on Schulinger's side did. Grandma, first uncle, and her own family were openly amused. The rest wore sour, uncomfortable expressions. Li Yuhuan was touched. Xiaoye, I know what you mean, she said. But we shouldn't rush into the antique shop idea, not until our family business grows into a proper group. My main job right now is to take care of you all, make sure you're fed and rested, so the business can be even more successful later. Ye Wudao nodded. Okay, I'll listen. Then Li Yuhuan turned to Grandma. Mom, I'm free for a while. Why don't you come stay with me? I'll look after you properly. Grandma's worried brow smoothed. Good, I'll stay. I'm not that old. You don't need to fuss over me. I can help with the housework, she added. Linger, you like the locust flower cakes I make, don't you? I'll make some tonight. Schulinger practically squealed. Thank you, Grandma. Since Xu Dahai and Li Yuan married, Grandma had never visited their house. Her agreeing to stay now marked a reconciliation. Things were on the mend. First uncle, anxious, blurted out, Mom, you'll still have to look after my child and cook for him. If you stay, what happens to your grandson? Grandma looked torn. Without hesitation, Schulinger pulled out a bundle of cash, 20,000 yuan, and slapped it on the table. First uncle, hire a nanny. If it isn't enough, I'll give more. Ye Wudao watched, a little speechless. First uncle hurried to defuse it. Ha ha, Linger, I was only joking. I was worried your grandma staying would be a burden on your household. But if you're that set on it, let her stay. Take your money back. I can't accept it. Oh, Linger, ask Xiao Ye if he knows anyone in our department. I've been a section chief for 8 or 10 years and I'd like to move up. Schulinger glanced at Ye Wudao. He replied casually, I'll ask my friends. Good. First uncle beamed. The request made it clear he was counting on Ye Wudao's connections. Then, as if on impulse, he reached over and handed the charming lady cosmetics set, previously given to Schuer, to Schulinger. Linger, take this. Use it. When Estee Lauder releases new stuff, I'll get it for you first thing, he added. Schuer was visibly displeased. First uncle, you already gave that set to me. First uncle waved his hand angrily. Schuer, don't be ridiculous. Today is Linger's coming of age, once in a lifetime. Can't you yield to your sister? I'll buy you another set when we go back. First Aunt's household looked helpless and bitter. First Uncle had turned on them so quickly they didn't dare argue. Shu Linger's son-in-law was too powerful, and no one wanted to provoke him. For the first time that day, they'd been soundly beaten by Shu Dahai's side, and they felt the sting. Shu Jiangguo and Shu Dashan watched the exchange with even more complicated feelings than the rest. For years, they had planned to marry Shu Linger to Fang Zhongxin and use the Fang family's influence to help the Shu household. Fate, however, had other ideas. The Fang family lay in ruins, while Shu Linger quietly expanded her own base until she was on the verge of building a conglomerate that could have eclipsed the Fang family at its height. Life was full of ironies. They all felt the vague sting of regret. If they hadn't opposed Shu Linger back then, they might have had a piece of the pie now, instead of owing her family 100 million. The coming-of-age ceremony ended quickly. After seeing off the relatives and friends, Li Yuan grabbed the car keys and tossed them to Shu Dahai. Xiaoye, we don't have enough rooms at home, so your grandmother will be staying in your room for now. You and Linger should find a hotel for the night. She hustled Shu Dahai and Grandma into the car before either of them could protest. Only after they were a good distance away did Shu Dahai whisper, Yuan, why didn't you let them stay? You and Mom could share a room. I'll sleep on the couch, and Linger and Xiaoye could still have their room. Li Yuan gave him an exasperated look. I really wonder if your brain's full of cotton. Can't you see what's obvious? Shu Dahai blinked. What do you mean? My point is, she said, voice low and sharp, Xiaoye has been staying with us for months, and there's still no sign of a baby. Don't you think that's strange? Shu Dahai's face flushed. Oh, then we should take Linger to see a doctor. Li Yuan scoffed. You're hopeless. What I mean is it's awkward for a young couple to try for a child while living under their parents' roof. They need their own little world, privacy. They'll be less inhibited if they have a place to themselves. Shu Dahai's eyebrows shot up. Oh, Yuan, you're actually being thoughtful. Grandmother chimed in, smiling. Yes, Yuan, you should really urge Linger about this. I'm not that old yet. When the baby comes, I can help look after it. I'll talk to Linger myself tomorrow. Li Yuan smiled brightly. Mom, Linger's always listened to you. I'll leave this in your hands. At the entrance to the Crystal Palace Hotel, Ye Wudao felt a rush of unexpected happiness that made him want to laugh but hold his breath at the same time. He forced an innocent expression. Sai, our mom will go to any lengths to get a grandchild. Linger, he added quietly, I really want to make Mom happy, but I'll respect your choice. Shu Linger rolled her eyes. Spare me the act. Don't pretend you're not secretly pleased. You're giving yourself away with that face. Eh? Ye Wudao panicked and instantly tried to fix his expression. I didn't know. Don't say that. Really, that's not it. 3 quick denials tumbled out. The dignified god of war, calm in strategy and on the battlefield, was all composure, except when it came to feelings. The man flailed, flustered and awkward. In Shu Linger's eyes, that unguarded reaction was more endearing than anything else. After the car drove off, Shu Linger waved over a taxi. Westlake Road, please. Got it. Ye Wudao let out a relieved breath as the cab moved away from home. Away from the family, things felt a little less tense. On the drive, she asked, casually, Where did you get the money to buy 30% of Crystal Palace's shares? Ye Wudao answered, nonchalant, Buy? I didn't buy them. Ren Susu gave them to me. Shu Linger laughed. Oh, what's your relationship with her that she'd hand over a stake like that? Zhou Dianping and I were cellmates. Ye Wudao said it calmly. I know Zhou Dianping from Renhe Pharmaceutical. He agreed to cooperate with Ren Susu because of me. For Ren Susu, getting Renhe Pharmaceutical on board is priceless. Giving me a small slice of stock was nothing. That may be true, Shu Linger mused, but how do you know Zhou Dianping? We were in the same cell, Ye Wudao answered. The taxi driver, overhearing, couldn't help laughing. Young people these days, so full of themselves. Renhe Pharmaceutical, the Crystal Palace, were they really the sort of things you could bluff your way to? He remembered a young couple who had ridden with him not long ago, bragging about landing the Shen family's Qingcheng love project. He'd laughed then. He probably didn't expect that the two who'd been so sure in his cab last time were the very ones now sitting there, except they hadn't been boasting at all. They stopped at Shihu Road. Yewudao stepped out and looked around, puzzled. There were no hotels or guest houses nearby. Why had Shulinger brought him here? It wasn't until he spotted Cheng Xiaoyu and learned that she'd rented a place nearby that he understood. Shulinger had come to stay with Cheng Xiaoyu. That song lyric crossed his mind. When I finally knew the truth, my tears fell. That night, Cheng Xiaoyu and Shulinger shared a room. Yewudao was left alone. But the two women barely slept. Excited by the idea of forming a group, they worked through the night on their group-building proposal. At dawn, they were already rushing to the company to put the plan into action. 2 hours after they left, Yewudao woke. The apartment was empty and the kitchen silent. It dawned on him they hadn't eaten. He packed 2 breakfast boxes from Michelin and headed to the company. The morning sets the tone for the day, he thought. You can't skimp on breakfast when you want a productive day. At the Qingcheng Love Project construction site, he heard someone shout nearby. Quick, someone! The crippled guy fainted again. Yewudao froze. For a doctor, rushing to help is reflex. He followed the commotion. A crowd of migrant workers had gathered, talking and cursing. How many times has he fainted now? He's sick, but instead of going to the hospital, he comes to work. He's earning money at the cost of his life. Unlucky for us to be on the same shift. Because of him, our wages are delayed. A pot-bellied contractor shoved through the throng. He saw the collapsed man and, furious, kicked him twice. Get up, you cripple! Damn it! The man groaned and opened his eyes slowly, bewildered. Boss, I stayed up too late last night. I was exhausted and I fell asleep. I'll get up and work now. He tried to push himself up but was too weak. He managed only a half kneel, gasping. When the man spoke, something in Yewudao's chest tightened. The voice, he knew it. It sounded like his high school best friend, Rat. He remembered Fan Yun and Zhu Daqiang had told him Rat's leg had been crippled. Could it really be him? Yewudao went pale and hurried forward. The contractor kicked the man again, and he toppled back to the ground. You're just trying to swindle me for medical fees, the contractor barked. Get lost. You're fired. Don't die here on my watch. Chapter 179, Good Brothers from the Past. The moment the foreman said, "You're fired," the man with the crippled leg went white. He bit his lip and somehow hauled himself upright, wobbling as if about to collapse. "Boss, please," he stammered. "I'm fine now. Please, don't fire me." "My daughter's in the hospital," he blurted out, voice cracking. "She needs money to live. If you fire me, she'll die." The foreman sneered. "What does your daughter have to do with me?" He said coldly, "You slowed down my project and I won't hire you again. Get out of here." He deliberately wiped his shoe across the man's body. "Ugh, you've dirtied my shoe. Disgusting." Cornered and humiliated, the cripple fell to his knees and clutched at the foreman's leg. "Boss, please, just one more chance. I won't slow the schedule again." The foreman raised his hand to slap him. "Did you not hear me? Get lost," he barked. "And if you keep bothering me, I won't even pay you this month's wages." Tears finally broke free. "Daughter, Dad's useless. I'm sorry," he wailed. A man's tears are not easy to draw. When they come, it means his heart is truly shattered. It was then Yewudao pushed through the crowd. He froze when he saw the ruined face in front of him. It was Rat, his high school best friend, but so altered he might have mistaken him for someone else. Rat was the same age as Ye, but he looked older than Yi could have imagined. More than half his hair was white, his skin rough and deeply tanned, his body thin to the bones. His clothes were torn, his exposed flesh marked with scars. He looked every bit a broken man, not unlike a street beggar. Time had carved cruel lines on him. Yi couldn't fathom what his old friend had endured. The foreman, losing patience, lifted his hand again. Yi shoved through and grabbed his arm. "Stop," he said. The foreman looked him up and down with contempt. "Move along. I'm disciplining my dog. This isn't your business." The onlookers stared at Yi in confusion. Why was he defending this despicable, bedraggled man? Rat glanced up at Yi with clouded eyes, then trembled and ducked his head, trying to slip away. He had seen Yi and felt such shame he couldn't bear to meet his old classmate. "Rat, stop," Yi called out. Rat muttered quickly, almost pleading. "You've got the wrong person. I'm not Rat. I'm the cripple." "Stop it," Yi's voice thundered, sudden and fierce. It rang out like a command, and for an instant everyone fell silent, as if a storm had passed through. Even the foreman froze. Yi went to Rat and wrapped him in a rough, sudden hug. Rat tried to wrench free. "Brother Yi, you're dirty. You'll get your clothes dirty," he protested weakly. Yi's anger cracked through everything. "Why didn't you contact me when things went bad? You had my permanent email address." Rat touched his broken leg and choked back a sob. "Brother Yi, I have no face to see you," he managed. Yi's voice softened, but it held steel. "As long as you don't steal, rob, or swindle, you're my brother." He searched Rat's face. "Do you still consider me your brother?" Rat's shoulders shook. He couldn't answer. Around them, the worksite hummed awkwardly, the foreman muttering as he turned away, and the men who had been jeering now looked on with uneasy shame. Chapter 180. Let's settle old scores together. Housie was speechless, choking back emotions he couldn't put into words. The contractor barked, "Get lost now. Don't you dare slow down my project." Yewudao let go of Housie and gave him a light punch on the chest. "Brother, you've suffered enough these past few years," he said. "Don't worry, today I'll settle all your old and new scores." Housie tugged anxiously at Yewudao's sleeve. "Brother Ye, let's go. We can't afford to provoke him." Yi ignored him and fixed the contractor with a cold stare. "Kneel, kowtow 3 times to my brother and apologize." The contractor burst out laughing. "Are you insane? Make me kneel and apologize? No way." He spat more insults. "And a friend of this cripple, he's obviously just as messed up. Before I get really angry, you two better clear out. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." Yewudao's lips curled into a sneer as he stepped forward. "Good, I want to see how ruthless you really are." Housie panicked and lunged to hold him back. "Brother Ye, don't provoke him." As he reached out, 2 steamed buns slipped from Housie's pocket and hit the ground. They were dry and hard, tinged green around the edges with patches of mold. The teeth marks in them were plain to see. Yewudao's chest tightened. "You eat these?" he asked quietly. Housie lowered his head and said nothing. Yewudao crouched, picked up one of the buns, and took a bite. It was dry and bitter, with a harsh, unpleasant smell. Yet compared to the bitterness settling in his chest, it was nothing. The contractor howled with cruel laughter. "So you're just like that cripple. Both of you live off scraps." "Not even a dog would eat that stuff," a bystander added with a snort. Something in Yi snapped. He lunged, grabbed the contractor by the throat, and lifted him up without apparent effort. The contractor froze, eyes wide. "Let go." He choked. Do you know what I can do? I'll kill you." "Fine," Yewudao said softly. "I'll grant your wish. When you return as a vengeful spirit, come and take my life." Then he threw the contractor. The man sailed into the open drum of a nearby cement mixer. The machine was running, churning cement and sand at a furious rate. The contractor tumbled inside and was immediately coated in wet cement as he was tossed around. For a heartbeat, everyone was stunned into silence. A madman. This was a madman. Someone could die. A worker slammed the switch. The mixer jerked and slowed to a stop. With the help of a couple of crewmen, the contractor crawled out, covered head to toe in gray slurry. He lay half-sprawl on the ground, retching, his vomit mixed with cement and sand in a nauseating slurry. He looked utterly humiliated and sickened. Rage flared back into his face faster than pain or shame. He grabbed his walkie-talkie and howled into it. "Second brother, third brother, fourth brother, get over here and help me deal with this." Within minutes, 3 burly men in security uniforms thundered over. They took in the scene and their stomachs dropped. Who had dared to attack the boss? If they hadn't protected him. "Boss, who did this?" the second brother demanded. The contractor pointed at Ye Wudao. "Him. Kill him." The 3 security guards bristled. "You're asking for death." They surged at Ye with clear murderous intent. Housie's face went pale. He grabbed Ye's sleeve and pulled frantically. "Brother Ye, leave. They're ex-soldiers. Don't fight them." Ye Wudao brushed off the warning as if it were nothing. He leaned back slightly, cold and composed. "Don't worry. They wouldn't dare." Then he added with a faint, disdainful smile, "Just 3 pesky bugs, not even worth my time." The 3 men were already closing in, but Ye Wudao didn't look worried. The tension in the air hummed, everyone waiting to see whether this would explode into something far worse.